34. Most astronomers weigh major circumstantial evidence that 1 million alien technological civilizations died fast, just as we are seconds from our murder-suicide. Surely most of those worlds suffered their wars, and a few residents gathered to agree, a small initial minority, on loving justice to stop them. What happened? No one campaigned to inspire the majority to simple enforcement mechanisms to meet and defeat the harmful power of tyrant warriors who worked around the clock to build lawless institutions, while virtually every private citizen devoted 100% of their striving guardian care to their family, but 0% to their designed lawful self-government that democratic revolutionaries warned them would die if we did not constantly proscribe, supervise, and disempower tyrants with our justice and leadership. But no, nose in your smartphone. Leave the driving to the jackals. Then get your affairs in order. But for who? Not for your old age or your dead children. Can you name me a single bad government mass citizen disaster from AD or BC not caused by jackals, not leaders emptying our treasuries to them what bribes them to, including our fortunes to mass murder weapons dealers to buy national tyranny and world war? You only think you can't stop this shit because you ain't tried. And those other giant threats to all human and your family's lives? Just ditch the bribery, bombs, and machine guns by law. And there's our trillions for those rescues, baby. Who else do you know yelled, "Thou shalt pound thy swords into plowshares"? Your constitutional right is people only, through representatives, right to choose, declare, or refuse any war. Ever since American military dictators boomed 17,000 miles per hour nuclear missiles superpower face-off, their 3 minutes to decide first strike or counter-strike opportunities or demands removed 100% of our "we citizens choose our aggression, defense, and fate" right. Only universal nuclear disarmament can restore our war or peace choice. Reason enough to grant our NNPT ban the bomb lawsuits. Also, founder-ordered 50-state defense is only achieved by legislators with days of consideration, even when hostile troops approach our border. National populations of private family guardians will always choose national defense. But almost never, without dictator incitement, choose attack wars, recruiting for death their young, and only begging for counterattack. 100% of supposed constitutional democracies' wars of aggression were undeclared, unconstitutional, corrupted dictator, legislature, and weaponeer illegal attacks. Last year, Putin hair-triggered all his ICBMs because he knew that after his nuclear destruction of Ukraine, NATO would blitzkrieg 1,050-mile-an-hour tanks a half-mile apart to Moscow, many surviving interception by nuclear missiles. But even his apocalyptic escalation to 4,000 nuclear missile severing of American and European command heads, and of course populations, would not stop their tank murder of Moscow and hunt for Putin. But American 20 bombs 40 megatons on their capital certainly would. Besides, his deep underground lair would be elsewhere. Neither superpower nuclear dictator contemplates his own first strike without expecting majority death of his own nation, also well aware of the probability of all above-ground life ending nuclear winter. Yet far stronger in nuclear superpower commander-in-chief's sick minds is insane love of absolute power, in truth, absolute powerlessness to protect the life on Earth that they certainly are about to end. Giant nuclear arsenals corrupt not only all human ethics, but intelligence and sanity too. Remaining bomb owner motives are merely riches and power for a very few years until we all die, unless a few doomsday perpetrators survive underground to come up later and dream of mastery over a dead planet. If you don't think that power and glory do not sicken humans beyond redemption, then you have not heard that most Olympic medal hopefuls would agree to die in 5 years if they were promised a single gold medal. Once corrupted, stupid, crazy people will kill and die for power, money, and glory. If you leave these soulless crazies in charge of corporation robbery of our treasuries, million-man armies, and 40 billion killer nuclear arsenals, I'll bet you my 10,000 to your $1 they'll kill your kids soon, for sure, from thirst, starvation, and 10,000 10-mile fireballs. Crack any book about history's 14 badass emperors whose final purpose was just to hold off their own revenge murder despite enraged millions plotting it. Their other reason to be was to kill as many or all it took to cement their world rule. Nuclear weaponry is ultimate power fulfillment only offered to American and Russian emperors number 15 and 16 since the 1970s permanent peak of nuclear doomsday power. How can you hear my speeches without working hard to win enforcement of 57-year broken ban-the-bomb law? Ultimate world weapons elevate ultimate monster world military dictators and killers. Disarmament, by ultimate contrast, will return women to world rule, as they did for 2 million years before technology minus love law turned new male bosses to devils. My scenario of American-Russian-Ukraine explosion to doomsday is not at all my wild imagination. Public history and verbal testimony closely reveals every weapon, every action and reaction driving through top military commanders' minds, plans, and statements. And the awful weapons? You bought 'em. Each and every kind was designed and built to explode all the rest. Not only was every great arsenal ever built used, but soon the world total will be used together at once to kill us all. One or two of 2024's 49 wars around the world may be well-behaved affairs between professional combatants, following every international law of civilian-sparing war, but I haven't heard of one yet that does not, at least one adversary guilty, deliberately savage non-combatant women and children by major strategy, purpose, and objective. Ever since American General Billy Mitchell's revelation that victory can be assured by bombing civilians until remaining miserable survivors are terrorized into forcing their own government's military and political surrender, most aggressors ever since overtly, fully waged total, as opposed to military combatant war, correctly defined as kill every human and destroy every human product inside the radius of intended conquest. Ask any general what his orders are, and he'll tell you, kill people and break things. Similar to world disarmament treaties, war conduct to spare civilians agreements were also signed with the other's hands, fingers crossed behind their backs. Good reason you're gonna sue the punks to obey. Wars between nations or subnational opponents are often won when the stronger army kills and drives back the other, only beginning the fun. The real point, goal, and conquest is driving through the loser's territory, especially unarmed, defenseless habitations. The result, a myriad times during most every one of 10,000 years of his story, is ethnic cleansing, the perp's PR term for ethnic genocide. The 100 stories I've heard were the identical total hate, savagery, and sadism that total military power is. Knock down doors, then drag families out, mostly women and children, into front yards. Rape all ages female. Everybody watch. Beat most bloody and broken. Shoot the helpless enemy slime at slow intervals, because the horrified family lovers, grieving their just murdered dear ones and begging to die on the bleeding pile too, are the point, the laughter, the vengeance, the justice due all members of evil nations, religions, and races. Some witnesses are spared to run far away to refugee camps, their homeland stolen forever by the conquerors. Humanity disappeared with the first army, only to return when the last is disarmed and retired. Correction, the armies, weapons, and wars will return in a flash unless every school contacts and teaches every other school everywhere to know, respect, collaborate with, and help fully equal and good people to live on this earth. Your races, religions, and flags are as equal, good, and wise as I try to be. Love, love. Hate, hate. Mandatory adult attendance, Saturdays and Sundays, taught by the children. If I haven't convinced you to disarm and retire armies for humanity, then do it to take their $50 trillion it will cost to refill lakes, water forests, and suck enough CO2 out of the stratosphere to bring back a rain. My big mouth asserts words, trumpets plans. Only your words will bring down gavels in courtrooms, unless you shame me into helping. NPR reported on the last decade of Egypt's politics. Amazingly similar to 100 nations suffering poor living conditions, worsened by minorities scheming to exercise their outsized power over weak, passive majorities by paying leaders to PR lie that murder of different others is justice and glory. And politicians' gifts will continue only so long as they empty citizen tax treasuries to us for war. Quadruple bribes are also due for removing every possible full population plus racial and religious minority, human and political right, and government benefit, constitutionally deserved by the general public, to instead flow multiples of the good stuff only to the players with the money and guns to hammer their elite privileges down. Every living condition and deteriorating human right of Egyptians has been consequently worse year by corrupt year, testified the reporter. The entire economy, looted by armed thieves, continues to reduce even food and water supplies for a population dominated by military and financial elites, directing public resources to mainly benefit their mighty fat already lives. Deliberate destruction of government's constitutional, democratic duty of public budget and law priority for equal rights and general, not special interest welfare. Money talks, guns get. Would 100 of my alter egos please research every nation's paid armed removal of 90+% rights and living conditions? Detail how public corruption drives tyranny and theft, and tell us, nation by nation, what laws would restore our humanity, equality, peace, and public benefit. Finally, tell us how our citizens' public advocacy and organization could jumpstart your study's every needed reform. Now, internet everywhere, including to every judge, lawmaker, and president, then sue, baby, sue. My sick, fevered, arguably grandiose dream is, oppressed, endangered citizens everywhere, hear my pleas for your work to boom our legal revolution to outlaw every form of power dictatorship so often built by private bribery of public leaders and weaponized coercion enough to fully rob and enslave most, not to mention kill humanity 10 times over. The only debate left is who ruins the rest of us, the top dog 10% or 1%. Until you, and you work 1 hour of your family 100 every week for law to stop them and save us, those 1% finish us off because your 1% is just too much trouble. Private bio-family glory, public human family sloth. Your efforts against your national tyrants could be difficult and dangerous, with bribe-captured politicians and courts of little present help. Then you must prioritize international organization to advance world help, including treaty design and progress. Your cruel, unjust masters might stay in oppressive power until brought to heel by international economic pressure and new world legal power, waged by a fortunate, enlarging group of nations well ahead of yours in defeating militarism and corruption. Advancing world citizen empowerment and rescue of all possible is the major goal of your own international networking. Reform your own nation as best you can without getting jailed or worse.